Hey guys, let's go over the review so you have all the answers prior to taking the test next period. Okay, number 1 says translate, which means to slide the given figure 5 units to the right and state the quadrant that it's located. So for this one, since I'm going to translate, I'm going to slide each point 5 units to the right. So I'm going to pick this point first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each point I'm translating 5. This point's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to connect my points to form the polygon. Okay, and state the quadrant it's located. Remember, our quadrants are labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4 in Roman numerals, just like a giant C. Okay, so my answer here would be in quadrant 1. Now I'm going to take the figure that I just translated, and I'm going to do number 2. So now I'm going to reflect it across the x-axis. I always want you to highlight where you're reflecting it or where you're translating it. That will help you on your test next period. So I'm going to reflect across the x-axis, which means I'm going to highlight what axis I'm reflecting it over, so I expect to see that on the test. Okay, so I'm reflecting my new figure into a new quadrant after I reflect it over the x-axis. So again, reflecting means how many points away or how many units away it is from the line of reflection. So this point right here is 1 above the line of reflection, so I know the new one has to be 1 below. Okay, this next point is 1, 2, 3, 4 above, so it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4 below. This point is 1, 2, 3, 4 above, 1, 2, 3, 4 below. And then the same thing. So when I connect my points again, it is a reflection of the one that I did in number 1. So my answer here is, which quadrant is it located in? It's now in quadrant 4. Okay, now number 3, what quadrant would the shape be located after a rotation of 90 degrees clockwise about the origin? So I'm looking at my figure that came from number 2. Here's number 1, here's number 2, and I want to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise. So again, if I rotate it at 90 degrees clockwise, clockwise would be this way, because that's how you read a clock. So 90 degrees would be 1 quadrant over, which means it would end up being in quadrant 3. Okay? Number 4 says, write the following numbers on a number line. So I have 5 halves and the square root of 11, including 3 different types of real numbers on the number line in between those 2 numbers. And then write the real number type. So I'm going to draw my number line. Okay, I need to figure out what these represent first. So 5 halves ends up being 2.5. The square root of 11 is 3.32. So I know it says include 3 different types of real numbers on the number line that are in between these 2. So if I have 5 halves here, which is again 2.5, and the square root of 11 here, I'm going to use a different color. So this is 3.32, and this is 2.5. You can choose any 3 numbers that would fit in between these 2. So we can pick real numbers would be, again, any number that would fit into our real number system. So rational, irrational, integers, whole numbers, natural numbers, and so forth. So I'm going to choose 2.75 would go next. I'm going to choose 3, which is an integer. I could do 3 1/3. Because when I translate that into a decimal, it's 3.33 repeating, which is a repeating decimal, which falls under our rational numbers. And that's all it's asking me, 3 different types of real numbers on a number line. So this is a terminating decimal, which is a rational number. This could be an integer or a natural number. And this is a repeating decimal, which is a rational number. Okay? This next one, let's zoom in a bit. Okay, number 5, it says translate triangle D, E, and F 5 units to the right. So I'm going to pick up D, E, and F, and I'm translating it 5 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I label this, if I translated D, I now have D prime. F is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is F prime. And E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is E prime. I connect those points. And now my answer, I have to actually tell what those coordinates are of D prime, E prime, and F prime. So D prime would be 2, 0. E prime is 3, negative 4. And F prime is 1, negative 4. Okay, number 6 says reflect, which means to flip triangle DE and F across the x-axis. So I'm going to highlight my x-axis and I'm going to reflect it. And it says which point does not move. So if I reflect, remember it's how many points away from the line of reflection. Well, D is actually on the line of reflection. E is 1, 2, 3, 4 below, so I have to move that 4 above. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. This would be F prime. And then E prime would be the same. So which point really doesn't move? D stays the same. So point D would be in the same location. Okay, number 7 says rotate triangle DE and F 180 degrees. So it doesn't say clockwise or counterclockwise, but remember we assume clockwise if it's not stated. So again, if I look back at my picture, I already drew arrows, but clockwise would be going this direction. This would be 90 degrees clockwise, which would be quadrant 2. This would be 180 degrees clockwise, which would be in quadrant 1. Okay, so originally you should have written down the points of the original D, E, and F. So D was over negative 3 up 0. E is over 2 down negative 4, so negative 2, negative 4. And F is over negative 4 down negative 4. So these are my original points. Now we have to rotate these 180 degrees clockwise. So remember, if I want to plot these, I need to turn my paper the opposite direction. So I'm going to put my pencil in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to go counterclockwise 180 degrees. So I'm going to move my paper 2 rotations counterclockwise. There's 1, which is 90 degrees counterclockwise. And there's 2, which is 180 degrees counterclockwise. So now if I plot my points, my original points, D, again, let me see if you can see it. Okay, D was negative 3, 0. So here's my x-axis, here's my y. I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3. Here's my new D prime. Okay, E is over negative 2, down negative 4. So that's my E. And F was over negative 4 and down negative 4, which would be F prime. So when I flip my paper back over to the original, okay, remember we started in quadrant 3, and I rotated it 90 degrees clockwise, now 180 degrees clockwise. So if I look at the original, which I'm going to highlight it so it's a little bit easier to see, the original to the reflected, or the rotated one, 180 degrees, I know I did it correct. So my answer here of the coordinates should have been negative 3, 0, negative 4, 4, and negative 2, 4, because I look at those coordinates when I look at it the correct way on the graph. Okay, now it says apply the translation, which means to slide below to triangle D, E, and F. So the translation, the rule that was given is x minus 10 and x plus 8. So again, if I draw my coordinate plane, okay, I know if I go up, it's a plus number. If I go down, I'm subtracting. If I go right, I'm adding. And if I go left, I'm subtracting again. So on the x-axis, if I'm subtracting 10, that means I'm going left 10 units. Okay, y is my y-axis. If I'm adding, I'm going up 8. So I'm going to start with my original D, E, and F, which is getting a little crazy up here. Okay, but I'm going to translate each one of these left 10 and up 8. So I'm going to go up, or left 10, 1, 2, well I'm already off the page, so this is going to be sort of difficult to do. I could graph these on a graph paper and do that, or remember with the rule, I can take the original points, which we listed up here, and I can just add 10 to all the x's and subtract 10 to the x's and add 8 to the y's, and I should get my answer. So again, for D, I'm going to subtract 10 from the original, so negative 3 minus 10, and with the 0, I'm going to add 8. So my new point for D prime is going to be negative 13, 8. Okay, E is negative 2, negative 4, so I'm going to subtract 10 from the from the x, so negative 2 minus 10, and then negative 4 is the y. I'm going to add 8. Okay, when I get that, I should get negative 12, positive 4. And F, same thing. I have my original x value. I'm going to subtract 10. I have my original y value, and I'm going to add 8. So my answer for F prime should be negative 14, 4. Okay, make sure you have all those written down and flip it over when you're done. Okay, now it says, now apply the transformation below. So x turns into a negative x, and negative y, or y turns into negative y. Okay, and this is going to go to P, Q, and R, because my primes are P, Q, and R prime. So let's figure out the points first of the P, Q, and R. So let's say P is right here, which is 0, 0. So I'm going to flip it over. I should have the original P is 0, 0. Okay, what's the coordinate for Q? Q is over 2 up 4, so 2, 4. And R is over 5 up 2. Okay, so if I apply the rule to these points, okay, all I have to do is just change the sign of the x and the y. So 0, 0, those don't change signs, so P prime is 0, 0. Q has a positive 2, positive 4. I need to change the sign, so Q prime should be negative 2, negative 4. R, when I turn it into R prime, I change the signs of both, so it should be negative 5, negative 2. Okay, so that would be my answer. It says, which property changes when a figure is reflected across a line? So let's say if this is my figure and it's reflected across this line right here. Okay, we know it's going to be the new blue shape, which is right there. Okay, what changes? What property? Does the shape change? No. Does the size change? No. What actually changes? Okay, you should have said location changes, or another word for that is orientation. Where it's actually located, that's another name for location. So the location or the orientation of where it is did change. Okay, number 11 said, what is the result of the transformation below? Okay, so remember that you have to memorize these. We could plot some points and see what happens to it, or you can just remember that if one of them changes, the x and the y are still in the same place, but the x changes. Okay, with this, it's a reflection over what axis? Okay, you should have said y, because remember, when the y-axis doesn't change, okay, that means that it's a reflection over the y-axis. If it was this rule, where x stays the same and then the y changes signs, it would be a reflection over the x-axis, because again, the x stays the same, it doesn't change. Okay, look at number 12. A triangle has vertices negative 4, 5, negative 5, negative 3, and negative 3, 1. Okay, the triangle is translated 6 units down and reflected across the x-axis. What are the coordinates of the new image? So you should have used your graph paper for this one. I'm going to go ahead and draw my coordinate grid. Okay, I'm going to plot the original points. I'm going to use blue for the original. Okay, so it's negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to label this point A. Okay, point B is over negative 5, down negative 3. And then point C is over negative 3, up 1. Okay, I'm going to connect my points. Okay, and it says the triangle is translated 6 units down and reflected. So we have to do one at a time. So it's translated 6 units down. So I'm going to take each point. I'm going to go 6 units down. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be the new A prime, but I'm not done yet, so don't make that official. C, I'm going to translate 6 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I just did the first one, but that's not my answer. Okay, because remember it says translate it 6 units down and reflect it across the y-axis. The x-axis, I'm sorry. So now, here's my x-axis. I have to reflect it again over the x-axis. So now I'm going to plot these in red, so that my red is my official. So reflection means how many units away it's from the line of reflection. So A is 1 unit below, so A double prime, which is my answer, needs to be 1 above. C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above is my C double prime. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 below. So B double prime is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 above. I'm going to look back at my question. Okay, what are the coordinates of the new image? So now if I look at the coordinates of my new image, okay, I'm going to put A double prime should have been over 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4, comma 1. Your new image for B is over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And C double prime is over 1, 2, 3, negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 5. So those are my new points of the new grid. So whenever you have 2 transformations, do one first and then do the second one after. Okay? Here's the next question, 13. What would the figure below look like after a reflection of the x-axis? So here's reflection over the x-axis. I'm going to go ahead and draw my coordinate. Let's just say, it doesn't matter. X-axis would be right here. Okay, because this is where my x-axis would be. If I reflected it over, that means that it would flip down here, which means these points would still be really close to that line. And it's just upside down. So my answer here should have been C. Okay. Number 14. What is the volume of the cylinder below? So I'm looking for volume of the cylinder. So I need my formula chart out. So if you didn't have that already, you should have pulled that out. Okay, which I don't have mine. But volume of a cylinder, I should have V is equal to capital B times H. Okay, B stands for area of the base, which what shape is that? It's a circle. I want you to highlight your bases. 2 bases for a cylinder. So if my area of the base is a circle, what's the area of a circle? It should be pi r squared. So I'm going to insert that pi r squared in for the B. Okay, pi we're going to use as 3.14. The radius they gave us is 2 squared. And the height between the 2 bases should have been 5. So make sure you set that up correctly. Okay, when I plug this into my calculator, I'm going to multiply the 2 squared first, which is 4. Okay, then I'm going to multiply the 4 times 5, which is 20. And my last step is I'm going to multiply 20 times 3.14. So my answer is 62.8. My units are inches. And since I'm talking about volume, you should have had cubed. So my answer here is 62.8 inches cubed. Okay, and last question. A pole is 80 feet tall. A support wire is attached to the top of the pole and secured to the ground 35 feet from the pole's base. What's the approximate length of the wire? Okay, so first of all, there's no picture here, so we're going to draw a picture. Here's my flagpole, and it's 80 feet tall. Okay, so we have our pole that's 80 feet tall. A support wire is attached from the top of the pole, secured to the ground 35 feet from the pole's base. So it says 35 feet from the pole's base. Here's the pole's base, and it's secured 35 feet away from that. So this would be 35 feet. So ultimately I'm finding what is the approximate length of the wire. This is what we're trying to find. Okay, notice what shape is this. You should have recognized that it's a right triangle, and I'm trying to find the missing side length. So I know with the missing side length of the right triangle, I have to use the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, my a and my b represent the legs, and that's what's given to me. So I should have 80 squared plus 35 squared is equal to c squared. I have to use my calculator because these aren't the things that we had to memorize, but 6,400 plus 35 squared is 1225 is going to equal c squared. I'm going to add those together, and I get 7,625 equals c squared. Now I'm trying to find c, not c squared. So what's the inverse operation of squaring? Okay, you should have said square rooting. That cancels out over here. So when I plug that in, the square root of 7,625, my answer is 87.32 approximately. Okay, so the wire is the length of 87.32, which makes sense because remember our hypotenuse has to be the longest side. Has to be longer than the legs. Okay, now we're finished with the review. You will be taking the test for next period. So as you leave for break, you're going to turn the review into the tray. Okay, you will have to get out your formula chart, a piece of graph paper, a highlighter, which are in your baskets, and your pencil. Those should be all out on your desk when you get back from break, so then you can start the test right away. Okay, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.